So since Chiara's release, she's had a lot of potential builds that could be really good for her. I've seen a lot of melee auto attacker type builds where she's built sort of tanky with a Volticletto. I've seen Mistleton where she's built full spell amp. I've seen all sorts of stuff. And honestly, they all kind of perform with varying degrees of success, and they're all fairly decent overall. But there's been one build that stood out to me the entire time. And every time I run into this build, I always instantly recognize it because it's always got items that you don't see on other builds. Now, to break down why it's so good, we first have to address the weapon of choice, which is Mistleton. The thing about Mistleton is it brings a decent amount of spell amp, which is something that no other weapon available to Chiara can bring. The only downside to Mistleton is that it's actually kind of hard to craft. It's a 3-zone minimum, and it uses a bunch of materials that a lot of people are contesting, namely like bandages and other things like that. If you can finish Mistleton though, its stats are kind of crazy. If you notice, it has 15% CDR, 17% skill amp, 30 attack power, some HP regen, and some SP regen. And yeah, it's got a little bit of crit damage too, which only really matters a little bit for your D skill, but overall it's not that important. The thing is that Mistleton's just loaded from top to bottom. To complement Mistleton, you've got Imperial Burgeonet, which brings a little bit of movement speed, even more CDR, and 14% spell amp, which is a ton of spell amp. And together, between the two, you've got 25% cooldown reduction, which Chiara really benefits from. It's a really great combination. And now the rest of this build is what really separates it from the rest of the Chiara builds. Amazonas is just a really tanky piece. It gives you a decent amount of max HP and a bunch of skill damage reduction. Sword of Shah Jahan, which brings 30 attack power, which, if you didn't know, by the way, attack power, it actually also amplifies the power of your skills. So 30 attack power, roughly 30 attack power, is still actually quite a lot to make your skills do more damage, which are then amplified by all the skill amp you have on Imperial Burgeonet and Mistleton. As for the rest of Shah Jahan, it brings 350 max HP, which is a ton of HP. EOD boots are convenient along the route, and it brings a lot of defense, which makes you tankier and more of a frontline fighter. And of course, White Crane Fan, which is another great choice, giving you 18 flat amp, a little bit more movement speed, and healing reduction, which you have to have in almost every build. Overall, this build is a monster in combat. You can spam skills very fast, all of the skills deal really good damage, and tanky as hell and hard to kill. I absolutely love this build for Chiara. Now, as for skill order, I believe there's 2 different ways you can take Chiara, and they're both fine. But for this video, I'm going to be maxing E first, followed by Q, and obviously taking points in my passive and my ultimate whenever available. The other thing about Chiara is that when you're initiating in a fight, keep in mind that the best skill rotation is probably something along the lines of opening with E, popping your W to give yourself a nice shield, and then queuing them. As for the route's actually relatively flexible, and there's a couple of different ways you can do it, but the way I'd recommend it is starting Temple, because Temple's a very contested zone, and you want to get what you can ASAP. Starting Temple, going Factory, moving on to Forest after that, and then either School first, and then Alley, or Alley and then School. Either way, this build comes together pretty fast, and if you want to actually take a little bit of a detour when you're leaving Factory, you can move up through Cemetery and loot this bottom corner to potentially get a lot of the stuff that you would need in these final 3 zones, which makes them a lot smoother. So if you're moving up towards this teleporter here, or you're just running to Forest, I'd recommend getting a little bit out of Cemetery once you're leaving Factory. Now let's see how it performs. Okay, we got everything we need at a Temple. We even got some garlic to make some garlic bread. After that, I'm gonna go to Factory, actually. So the only disadvantage I can really think of for this build is that the weapon is basically a 3-zone minimum, and it's a relatively complicated craft. But aside from that, it's not that bad. The question is though, are we going to get what we need out of here? Thankfully though, we don't need any lighters, and generally lighters are the hardest thing to get out of Factory after a little bit, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. Okay, we got everything out of Factory. Time to head towards Forest. Although on the way, you can grab some stuff out of Cemetery, because it does actually have a lot of stuff we need. Since it's just on the way, we don't have to spend a lot of time here. but it gives us a few more chances to see the items we need. So that's good. Also, if you're having mana issues while you're using this build, I'd recommend making soju while you're in factory, using your water plus alcohol to make some soju. Alternatively, you can just pick up some honey like this and just slam it as you go. And just like that, we've already finished our golden weapon, which is a pretty big power spike for us. I'm gonna try and save my teammate, but I don't think I really can. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, his whole team's there. Well, that's unfortunate. We're down a person, which means we're gonna be fighting from behind now, which is less than ideal, but kind of nothing we can do about it at this point. But right now, since I managed to get all my stuff from the other places, everything should be coming together in this zone. And just like that, we're full build. You know what? It's only the start of day 2, let's crack a box and see what we find. You know what? Some free baked potatoes, can't complain. And a force core. Oh my gosh.
생존자가 사망했습니다.
Honestly, we take those. That's not that bad. Over here, we got pings.
생존자가 사망했습니다. 자신의 죄는 잘 알겠지?
We can still win this fight because they have a person down right now. As you can see, we're actually a really good prolonged duration fighter with a good gap closer. And with that E landing, she's for sure dead. Nice. Yeah, we're in good position to win this game. Ooh. So something to notice, we got that force core really early, right? And I just pulled a nail off of a body, so you know what that means. All we need to do is find mousetraps here in beach and we can finish remote mines. Which gives us a huge team fighting presence. And my teammate apparently has another force core. So we're actually going to be going up to 6 remote mines. Which is insane. I'm going to give one to my teammate just so that he has a chance to use it too. And I don't just die with them all on my body in case I get jumped or something. Honestly, if we can somehow pull this back and win with just the 2 of us, having lost our teammate really early on, that'd be great. Completely unexpected. We got pings over in hotel, so I'm gonna chase him right away. I might grab console on the way though, just so we don't get third-partied, or at least I have the chance to see it coming before it shows up. Ooh, another team picked up Wick. Now that might be a big mistake on our part, not camping out Wick. So at this point, the best thing for us to do is just walk around the map and farm minions. Random animals along the map. Because mastery is important. Makes all your attacks do a lot more damage, gives you experience, you level up. It's just all upside. And also, if we can get to level 14 mastery, I'm currently at 11 and my teammate's at 13. That gives us the chance to upgrade our weapon skills, which is good for both of us. So Chiara's role in this team right now is to be sort of a tanky CC bot that also has some pretty decent damage and sustain to act as a frontline for Zahir. He's got a lot of cameras too, so while he's got the cameras, I've got the mines. Okay, so I'm gonna start looking for branches. Because I can combine milk with branches to make butter, and then combine that butter with potatoes to make pretty decent food, better than what I've got right now. So we still should be concerned that there is a team out there that I think is a full team that still has Wick buff. We also have Ardor running around who's by himself on Hyunwoo. Got a nice execute there. And she should be dead right now. Got the tag. Grabbed her with the E. And that's a dead Nadine right there. And that was the team that had Wick too. So, one thing you should be concerned about when you're playing Chiara, and this is a mistake I actually just made, is that Chiara cannot place traps while she's in her ult. So if you're going to ult during a fight, make sure you put any traps down that you need to put down before you ult. Don't think you can do it while you're ulting. Hopefully someday that gets fixed, or maybe it's intentional, who knows. So right now we have a 2v2v1 situation, or potentially a 2v1v1. V1. Gonna be hard to say. It looks like it's a 2v2v1. I'm gonna put down some traps beforehand. Okay, so she's pretty low now. I may have popped my ult a little bit too early there, but that's okay. We can still win this fight easily. We have really good food. We can't guarantee that they do. There we go. Yeah, and that'll do it. Pretty solid win. It's no secret that Chiara is a team fighting master. She has really good zone control with her constant E-leashes. She has really good slow potential, spamming her Q out either in like a short cone or a long distance skill shot. She brings a lot to the table, and she contributes a lot to her team. She may not be the highest damage character in the game, but she brings a lot of utility while still being a huge threat. And as you saw earlier, that long range execute, it lets you be on any side of the fight whenever you need to be. If you see your teammates doing a lot of work and bringing someone very low, you can just ensure that they get that kill instantly. All in all, this build's really strong, and Chiara's a great pick too. If you've been playing Chiara yourself and you've got any crazy ideas, any great builds maybe that people don't know about, I'd be curious to know what they are. Feel free to mention what kinds of builds you've been using and having success with. And overall, I hope this was helpful. If there's any builds or characters that you'd want to see me try out in the future, feel free to let me know and I'll give them all a shot.